Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today for this special webinar looking at women in leadership for International Women's Day 2022. Thank you very much for joining us. Been doing quite a lot of promotion around International Women's Day this year. We started doing this last year, and it's just amazing how many people want to get involved and share their stories and their opinions, and also the number of people who reach out to our speakers and panelists about mentorship or about communication or about advice or about support or about guidance. So if you want to do that, I haven't actually asked the panel if they're interested in doing that, but they're all nodding at me, so I'm assuming that that's kind of like a good thing. We're going to work around the webinar this afternoon in 3 different parts. So firstly, with kind of like an introduction to the panel and who's speaking with you this afternoon. We've then got a discussion part of the webinar, and then we're going to finish up with some final hints, tips, suggestions, hopes, dreams, aspirations for the future, all of that kind of good stuff as well. So we'll be round about an hour today in total. Now, if you want to ask the panel any questions, or if you want to put any comments, feedback, suggestions, there's a chat box, or there's also the comments box on the right-hand side, and we'll be keeping an eye on both of those as we work our way through the webinar. So firstly, if we just start off with the introduction side of things, Nikki, if we come on to you first, that would be great.
Thank you, Christian, and afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikki Jones. I'm the HR Director for Snowzone. Snowzone operate indoor real snow centres in 4 locations, Yorkshire, Milton Keynes and Basingstoke in the UK, and Madrid in Spain. My role as the HR Director is to support those venues, and we have up to around 300 staff members, particularly in the winter season, given that we're a very winter heavy business. So we staff up in the winter and then down in the summer. But that's me, and happy International Women's Day to everyone.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being with us, Nikki. Much appreciated. Angela, coming on to you next.
Hi, and hi, everybody, and welcome to International Women's Day. So I'm currently the Group Chief People Officer for the Post Office, and I also have a couple of non-exec roles. I'm Chair of North Coders and also a non-exec director with And Digital. Post Office, everybody knows Post Office, the biggest retailer across the UK. My role is in 3 parts. One is to address the past and all the issues that have happened there, to make sure that we build an organisation that is really effective now and in the future, and then looking forward, building a brand new platform, digital integration, and making sure that we've got an organisation fit for the future, and hopefully a diverse and inclusive organisation that's fit for the future as well. That's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Angela. Thanks for joining us. Beth, coming on to you next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth. So I'm a general manager for a restaurant called Tattoo. So for those of you who don't know, we started off in Manchester. We now have Birmingham, Edinburgh, Leeds and London, which is opening next month. I believe it's one of the most exciting restaurant brands in the UK, set to go international as well. So we're a premium dining environment, and we aim to take the guests on kind of a journey, which is a really unique dining experience. And I'm one of the kind of most long-standing general managers of the company. And I think, yeah, it's really important for me to speak about women in leadership, especially in the hospitality industry.
100%. Thank you very much for joining us, Beth. Much appreciated. Nancy, coming on to you next.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I am the head of people for Luca, which, if you don't know Luca, we are one of the best Italian restaurants in the city, and you should definitely all come check us out.
You definitely are winning background of the webinar there, Nancy. I think that's a stunning one. So thank you very much for that.
They're actually like replacing the plants as I'm doing this. So if you see people behind me, that's why.
Thanks for joining us. And Faye, coming on to you lastly.
Hi, my name's Faye Mitchell. I work for Watch House as their community manager. Watch House is a design-led specialty coffee group. We have 9 sites across London, and have extensive plans over the next 5 years to grow. We should be 13 sites by the end of this year, and then moving out nationally going forward. So it's all very exciting. I have been in front of house hospitality for about a decade. very much coming from the bottom up, and over the last 3 years within Watch House, went from a management position front of house into the marketing team. So I now deal with all of our relationships and communications with customers outside of actually being on the floor serving them, and also our internal community and team. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. And Faye, one of the reasons that we thought it would be really great to get kind of like people such as yourselves and kind of Beth on today is kind of like looking at people who are very much on the up in their career as well, or just kind of starting out. So I'm going to start with the first question with you, which is a little unfair, but that's fine. So just a little topic here, but how do we free society of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination from your perspective?
I mean, what a question to kick things off with is.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I think, all jokes aside, it is an extremely complex question that I think ultimately is going to require a complex and very multifaceted solution in a wider context, but also in the hospitality industry. Bias and discrimination, I think, firstly, moving outside of the idea that we're talking on International Women's Day about men and women, and that bias, I think more broadly, bias and discrimination is built into us all through a lot of forms. It's cultural, it's structural, and it's historical, and I think unpacking that is a massive task. If I wanted to try and, in a very basic way, think about it in terms of our industry, I would say representation, and making representation a priority within the visual aspects of your business, both externally for customers and for the public, and internally for people that are there or joining or looking to join your team. And I think within organizations, there needs to be a kind of culture bubble within that conversation and a structural bubble within that conversation. I think those two things support each other within organizations. But also, I think discrimination in the workplace, and certainly my experience working front of house, and moving along in my career into a back of house situation, there's many. What you have to accept in hospitality is that the people that are in our restaurants or in our shops or in our cafes are they're situated in our own internal culture and on our own internal structure, but they're also then in the context of a social environment with customers from, certainly in London, all over the world, with kind of different levels of understanding. So how do we make sure it's safe, and how do we make sure that our organizations are very clear on a standard? And I think you have to kind of build from there, really, and appreciate, a question like how do we free society of bias is going to be a really uncomfortable one, and that's okay, and that kind of means that it is moving in the right direction.
Love an awkward conversation, Faye. Absolutely love an awkward conversation. We'll fill Angela into this as well then. Angela, do you want to join in?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a systemic issue, because if you actually look in the school environment, how much bias is really there? So if we look at STEM subjects and we look at how many women are coming through, actually, when they're probably 14, 15, and in a previous life, I worked for BA, and we used to try and attract people into being pilots or being engineers. And when they were 14 or 15, men, girls and boys, equal access, no bias, everybody open to it. They get to 17, 18, and suddenly they start to hit the workplace or post university or whatever they choose to do. And the bias then knocks in. And how do we bridge that gap to say, actually, as employers, we need to be open with either the customers but also the people who work every single day in our offices or in, serving the public. How do we make sure that that bias and that openness that people will have in their own families suddenly is actually put across into the workplace? It's almost like we walk in the door and suddenly we become biased. And as employers, I think we've got a real responsibility to say, as the new talent comes through, let's build on the strengths that there isn't really bias at a younger age group. But you hit this, and we need to then have role models within the leadership team, the management teams, to make sure that it's actually unacceptable to have bias going on. And women need to stand up and say, come on, this isn't acceptable. But we also need to support men to be able to say this isn't acceptable either. So it needs to be a joint effort of bias is unacceptable. And I told a very brief story when I was a lot younger around Sam the engineer. And Sam had gone into this really difficult, challenging environment, managed to solve the problem, really complex engineering issue. And then we asked around the room, how many people thought Sam was a man? And 95% of the people, because it was a critical engineering situation, thought it was a man. And actually, it was a woman. And so the bias is so ingrained that we need to really change the mindset and make sure that at leadership level, we're challenging ourselves all the time to break those barriers down and say it's unacceptable and give people confidence and the voice to do it.
And at a leadership level, I went to a fantastic panel last night that was hosted by an organization called Kelly's Cause, who are an amazing hospitality-led mental health charity. And there was great discussion about, in my industry in particular, we actually have quite a lot of parity at lower level recruitment, and going up into kind of mid-level management roles. But what we still see in most industries in the world is that your boards and your board of directors are largely male, and largely kind of white men. So I think that it has to start coming, those conversations need to be situated in those boardrooms. They need to understand and prioritize diversity and having women there. And we all know now that mixed boards or more diverse boards those businesses perform better. We need to start seeing that the weight of that happening from the very top, I think, in order to create systemic change within industries.
Absolutely. I'm going to come back to Angela just on one quick point and one quick question, but with something like, I'm going to say postmen, but post persons. What's the mix and how are you working to resolve that at the moment for a bit of a real-time example?
So we're not Royal Mail, so we don't have the postmen who go around and deliver. So, but we do run all the post offices. So it's the biggest retail network in the whole of the UK. And actually, phase point, at the postmaster level, it's incredibly diverse, ethnically diverse, gender diverse, disability, the whole lot. So diversity is alive and thriving in the post offices. But as you go further up through the organization, gender diversity, well, there's 1/2 of us on the exec, and the rest are all white men. And then you go to the next level below, and it's probably 60-40 male female, which is not bad, but how many of them can actually move up to that board level? So it's that middle to senior level where people just get blocked, particularly females. And it's unlocking that. And Faye's absolutely right. It has to be set at the exec level, and the tone, the expectation, how we recruit, how we develop, how we progress, how we do succession, everything in that space needs to be led and the tone set And interestingly, at Post Office, the CEO, Nick, he is really pro diversity and is working incredibly hard to make sure that we do address those issues. But yeah, the bottom of the pyramid, or the customer facing piece, is actually really diverse, and there's no problem.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Angela. Much appreciated. Now, Nikki, we're covering over quite big topics in quite a short space of time here. So again, your topic to start on is diversity, equitability and inclusivity. So again, just a small one, but if you want to get us kicked off on that, that would be amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, obviously it's a big issue, and all of these issues tie together. So, I'm interested, and we've really focused on something that Faye said, which is focusing on representation. So, unless you can see it, you don't know you can be it. And I very much believe that. And we work in industry, snow sports, which is traditionally very kind of middle class, white, privileged, all of those words that sadly, have come to be quite negative, but, we don't see it as that. But what we have tried to do is really focus intentionally on turning that around. So really trying to get particularly more women and girls into snow sports, which traditionally has been quite tough because, all the research that, for example, Snow Sport England do is about, women and girls, they get to a certain age and then they drop off from sports or active leisure. And why is that? A lot of the time it's because, when you get to a semi-professional level, you are coached by a male. You're not really coached by females. So we have really focused on getting more female coaches into our business, and focusing on retaining those and letting them work over a period of time. And how does this tie back together? Because it's about inclusivity. So we focused in terms of our drive over the last 18 months, 2 years, 3 years on having an inclusive culture, which then attracts the diversity. So not just focusing in on, how do we get more diversity? Actually, we want to ensure that at our operational level, we provide an environment that feels inclusive, that, our guests and our customers that come in, they see people that look like them. Our coaches and our team members are working with guests and customers who look like them. So it feels much more comfortable. And we also, when we realised that we were having an intentional drive, we spoke to the women and the girls, the team members that we had who were from ethnic backgrounds or socioeconomic background. We've really focused on that because, as I said, it's seen as quite a privileged sport. So we focused at the grassroots level and talking about, well, what did you think that the barriers were to you coming into this business? What do you think the barriers are to you, becoming the next ski star, the next snowboarding star? Why can't you do it? Everyone else can do it. Why can't you do it? So for us, it's just been about real representation, the images that are out there, whether it's on print or whether it's online or whether it's interviews that are happening. We want those images to be diverse because the sport is. We focus also a lot on disability. So encouraging people of all abilities to get involved into sport. Our motto is it's a sport for all. We have our own snow sports school. We have our own disability snow sports school. Is it about that? Why do we do that? Because we want to attract people in of all abilities. And it's just really important that we are seen to be what we want to be. And why are we doing that? Because we really want to be it, not because we want to be seen to be doing it, because that's what we want to deliver, what we're talking about. But it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional, Christian. It's not going to happen by itself. You have to decide that this is what you want to do and go out there and make moves to do it.
And two questions for you, but the first one being kind of like in terms of the Spanish business, what did you need to take a slightly different approach, or was it kind of a different reaction that you got from your team? What was there any difference?
No, not really. We were, I guess, either fortunate or it's the nature of the industry of we're of the same mind. They have a disability snow school as well. They encourage sport for all. The only difference between us and them is language. It really is, the industry, snow sports industry, people who are engaged in it either as a hobby or as a professional sport. It's a very small community internationally. So actually we were of the same mind and that we didn't have to do any work with them.
And through doing this kind of like implementation process, were there any challenges? Was there any pushback? Was there anything that you came across that was unexpected?
I think there's always a challenge in translating what's said at the exec level to the ground, and so we decided that operationally in our team members, people who are working in our venue every day, they're the ones actually who had to demonstrate that we were an inclusive business. I can do it with words and with representation and all of that stuff, but actually they're the ones who are engaging with new team members, our guests and so on. So, you know, they have to feel it, they have to understand it, they have to want to work in a more diverse organisation. So we really focused on educating our teams about what we wanted to achieve, how we were going to achieve it. And it's really just brought a different feel to our business, and we're really proud of it. It's ongoing though, of course. You never get there, but it's ongoing. But yeah, we're really proud of where we come from, for sure.
Excellent, Nikki. Well done to you guys. Now I'm going to come on to Nancy, and your rather small topic, Nancy, is valuing and celebrating difference. If you can tell us a bit about what you're doing in that area, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think that's one of the, you know, it ties into a lot of the other things that people have said so far, which thank you for everything that my fellow panelists have said so far. I think you've raised some really good points. It's not just about changing the way we think or, you know, making things more inclusive. Like that's obviously very important, but it's kind of showing people why we need to change these things. And I think that does come from valuing difference. Like when you think about how many people have been left out of the discussion for so long, it's like, what ideas, what thoughts, what things have we lost by just not giving these people a voice? And I think that for me is the biggest thing is it's not just about getting people in, it's about how much richer it makes all of us if we have these different ideas and thoughts and ways of handling things. Like you never really know what somebody else is thinking. We all come from such diverse backgrounds that, you know, we really can have so much more and just all be so much better if we could just actively listen and include different people in the conversation. And I think a big part of that, like that I've seen, you know, with Luca and with what we're trying to do is this idea of really investing in our team and listening to what they want. Like instead of just deciding that we're going to do this and these are the bonuses and these are the incentives and these are the things people are going to love, like we're really actively asking our team, what do you need? What do you want? Because I think at this point, a job needs to be more than just a salary. That kind of stuff really isn't enough anymore. And I think having, you know, employee assistant programs and like talking about mental health, especially in an industry like this, like these kind of things should, to be honest, be the bare minimum. And I think that that's something that people are really starting to move towards and something that we're personally really investing in.
Thank you very much for that, Nancy. I think Faye, you wanted to chip into this as well, so I'll just add you in as well.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what Nancy said, I think that what's interesting in my experience, what I have come up against in terms of talking about diversity and women in the workplace is this concept that what that means is the idea that everybody is the same. And I think you're missing that if you're missing the opportunity of embracing different perspectives if you want to go in this very like binary mindset of like everyone's got to be treated the same and our policies have got to be the same for everyone, and that's not actively in a business encouraging people from diverse parts of life. You know, as International Women's Day, you know, today I was thinking a lot about mothers being a prime example. You know, mothers in the workplace, socially and on an employment basis. You know, we uphold the idea of and being a mother is this hugely important thing, but I feel that it's a prime example of there being huge gaps in company policy of actually enabling them not only to access everything that a colleague who isn't a mother or doesn't have a child could access within that company. But also actively doing things because you know that different perspective is going to enrich your business. It's going to enrich everybody's position there. So yeah, that was all I wanted to add as a point.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for chipping in. Angela, I'll add you in as well at this stage.
Thank you. And it's actually building on the mother point, in that if you look at a lot of women who have broken down the barriers and the boundaries and have the confidence, most of them, they will say their mother said, you are capable of anything. Never say you can't, because you can. And how are we making sure that we create the environment where everybody can achieve what they want to do? And there's also a level of confidence, because it's very easy to say, oh yeah, no, we can create the environment and we expect the men to give us every opportunity and be open about it. But women have to have the confidence to be able to push back and be able to contribute and have a view. And how do we build that confidence that it's okay? And generally, it's actually the male leaders who give that permission. And so having that balance around, the shadow, it's always the classic, the shadow you cast. Let's reposition it and say, what's the light that you're actually projecting that is creating the environment where people have confidence, women have confidence, everybody, actually, a diverse environment has confidence to be themselves with skill, and that they can have a view and they can achieve. But I do think some women are holding themselves back because they don't believe that they can do it. And we just need to give them the encouragement that actually, yes, they can.
Love that statement. Thank you very much for that, Angela. Much, much appreciated. Nikki, I'll add you in as well.
I just wanted to follow up on something that Nancy said, which we found as well, is this piece around engaging with your staff to understand what is it that they're interested in, because there's a whole generation now who have an expectation of their employer that they will be socially responsible, they will be environmentally responsible, they will take active steps to be responsible in all of these areas outside of your job and what we pay you. I expect you as an employer to do all of these things, and it's really, really important that you engage with them and that they want to see and expect you to want to have a diverse workforce, to have an inclusive workforce, to offer a variety, as Matt says, of benefits and incentives that are attractive to a diverse and inclusive workforce. So I think that's a really, really good point that you brought up there, Nancy, because it's something that will just continue to grow and grow as companies have to do more and more reporting around their social responsibilities. Christian.
Excellent, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is how to be a leader and become a catalyst for others in their career, especially younger women. And Beth, I think you wanted to lead on this one, so if we come to you first, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I think just kind of following on from what all the ladies have said, but particularly Angela, I think it's easy for me to believe this, but I think you really do need to believe that anything's possible. And I think not everybody has that. And I think there's that imposter syndrome with a lot of women who kind of constantly tell themselves that they can't do something or why they can't do it. The challenges are there. And I think there are challenges and there are barriers, I think, especially with women in this industry. You get to a certain level and I think it's very difficult to get past that level. And I mean, I think I'm young-ish, the kind of the beginning-ish of my career. And I've been very fortunate, to be honest with you, especially the company I'm in now. The opportunities are endless, and I'm really proud to be working for a company that I am now. But in the past, historically, I have been put in situations where you question yourself constantly. You're worried, you're scared, you're sat in a board room of 20 men, and you're the only woman, and it's none of the men's fault in that boardroom that you're the only woman in there, but you're constantly questioning yourself, and you're not doing anything differently, but you're just questioning yourself because why is it me that's in here? And I think you do start to doubt, and it can affect like productivity. And I think the main thing is really just kind of, as Angela said, you really need to believe that anything is possible, especially as a woman, you know, and you will face those boundaries. And I think you just need to challenge them, because it's so important, because if no one challenges them, they'll never move. The boundaries will never move, you know. And I think for me personally, reaching out to people and asking, like upskilling, I think learning new skills, challenging yourself is so important, and reaching out to people and asking for advice. Surround yourself with people who have more knowledge than you, because you can only better yourself that way. And, you know, I think it's so important for a company to be able to enable us to kind of utilize all those skills as well, without putting challenges in front of us and make it even more difficult.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Beth. And Nancy, do you want to add in at that point? You're on mute. I mean, happens every webinar. It's done.
There we go. It was going to be me. I knew it. No, I think you raised some really good points there. I think it's, you know, as a woman, I'm not going to say how old I am. I don't tell anyone. I do think, you know, that I've faced a lot of challenges, and I think I was very fortunate in the fact that I never considered being bossy a bad thing. I really never minded. It kind of was just like, it was actually something that I found empowering, and I'm fortunate that I found those challenges empowering as opposed to demotivating. But obviously myself as a frame of reference is only a frame of reference for myself. You know, I can't hold everyone to that standard, because not everyone reacts the same way. I think it's how we get across that we're all responsible for building a better world, not just women for women, or, you know, ethnicity for ethnicity. Like, it's literally all of our responsibility to educate ourselves and to make the world a safe and inclusive place for everyone. So it's kind of like, in this day and age, like, no one should get a pass. Like, it shouldn't take a man telling another man that a behavior against a woman is wrong. Like, we kind of all need to take ownership for ourselves and understand how we can contribute to a better, healthier, safer, more inclusive world, because in the end, we'll all just be better for it.
100%. Angela, come on to you next.
Yeah, and so I'm probably the oldest person on this panel, and if I reflect back on the how I developed the kind of confidence and leadership skills, because I didn't have that much confidence when I was younger. You know, I had the classic statement of, well, you're pregnant, so that's really the end of your career, isn't it? And you'd think now, actually, if you said that, that would be a problem, and absolutely right, it was a problem. But, you know, I've had numerous things, but if I go back, and I worked for Land Securities as their group HRD, and I went in and I was the first woman they had ever recruited into a senior leadership role. And there was me and 50 other men. And it was really scary. And I went to my boss and I said to him, I want to work at home on a Friday, partly so I can pick my children up from school. But I actually think I'm going to be more productive. And he went, oh, we've never done that before. And I said, give me a go. And within 3 or 4 months, he said, the output is unbelievable, but I'm now going to set the tone and I'm going to do it. And it just changed the whole way the work environment works. I mean, obviously now hybrid working is not a big deal, but in those days, many years ago, it was a really big deal. And I think women having the confidence to ask the question, but also to not get shot down, and to really respond. And that's the leadership piece around, if the leadership respond in a positive way and are open to ideas and don't make really crass statements around, because you're a woman, you can't do this, then actually it will change the environment. I do think we've made huge progress as a country, but there are still massive barriers. You know, I have still comments, not in my current employer, but in general, where people are like, are you really happy to travel? Are you sure? And they don't mean it, but it is a leadership tone that we are, as you know, as Nancy was saying, we're trying to build a better world here where everybody is valued regardless of male or female. So I think that's the leadership challenge, and actually that's the way we will build confidence and develop leadership skills, if we can see it demonstrated in the leaders that we work with.
Absolutely.
I think we touched before on listening to people. Like we've done a massive piece on our people recently, and I think we asked what the problems were, and it wasn't, you know, like 2 years ago we put a monthly subscription thing, and it was like a perk for the team, and we thought it was an amazing idea, but actually nobody used any of it because they weren't anything that was useful to the teams. And I think we all sat down and thought, God, you know, why is no one using these things? But actually when you go through it and you think, well, actually none of it's really like valuable to the team. But things that are valuable are, you know, before the kind of hybrid working, the 4-day working weeks were kind of announced this year. Last year, we brought into 4-day working weeks for our chefs, for our kitchen teams, because we're such high volume. It's extremely hard to work in our kitchens. And so we implemented a 4-day working week, and it's completely changed the workplace. You know, it's not every week it happens. You know, obviously you have absences, sicknesses, especially with COVID, but the idea that a full-time job in a kitchen, especially in such a hard working environment, is now a 4-day working week for the chefs, at least at this level, is just amazing. And it's just changed things, just small tweaks that actually are really easily to implement, you know, and you just need to listen to the teams and find out actually what they want and what they need, really.
Excellent. Faye, I think you wanted to add something in it as well at this point.
I think it sounds a bit cliche, but one thing that I suppose I feel really strongly as I kind of move through my career is I wish that someone had told me is to really, really look after yourself. Like, look after yourself outside of your working environment and prioritize that, because I think if you are moving through the world in a more marginalized group, it is emotionally a very exhausting process dealing with the microaggressions that you come up with, the issues that you face that you don't have a tangible way of confronting. And I think a lot of women in hospitality fall into the trap of assuming that kind of if they just work hard enough and they sacrifice, that is a good example of hard work. And actually, a few years ago, I learned that if you continue to sacrifice your own well-being, that's actually the example that you're showing to other women. And keeping yourself really well and prioritizing that makes you so much stronger and so much better in your working environment for other women and for everyone involved, really.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Faye. That was a good run there. Angela, going to come on to you with a question about what you think is preventing women from getting to the top within organisations.
So this is a massive topic and very multi-dimensional in terms of the scope of the answers. I think in some ways women are preventing themselves from getting to the top, in that they either don't have the confidence or they haven't really reached out and grasped the opportunities that are there, either because they think they can't do it or because the opportunities haven't been sort of placed in front of them. So, you know, certainly I've had to go after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. It hasn't just landed. So it does take a huge amount of effort to get to be an exec leader. That said, I do think that there is still this middle level of how you actually, and if you look at induction and turnover statistics in a lot of organizations, it's that sort of 28 to 38 where a lot of females will fall out of the workplace. And being really proactive, you know, generally because they're going off to have a family or they're having to look after aged parents. But if they go off for a family, how do we reintegrate them back in? And a lot of organizations are really, really poor at reintegration. And there is a general concern that people are going, well, actually, I'm going off on maternity leave. Is there still going to be a job for me? Is it all going to have changed? And how do I reintegrate? And yes, there's keeping in touch, but I do think the infrastructure in organizations to make sure there is a proper return to work. How do you plan to balance work and home? How do you plan to be generally the carer for the children? And there are lots of fantastic men who do, have an equal share. And I was lucky to be, and still am married to someone in that. But it does need a team effort to make sure that the women have the opportunity, and as they come back into the workplace, their needs are addressed, they have the confidence to express those needs, and that we actually create the work environment where they can balance both. But I think it does need to come from women themselves, but also the environment that we create as employers. It's really, really important that we create tools, techniques, encouragement that enable people to get through that middle part of their career and then actually accelerate through. And then there is the culture around the exec table or the boardroom table that it's really important. And I was given this advice a long, long time ago. Please, please don't try and be a man. Be a woman and be proud to be a woman, because the women who try to be men are absolute nightmares to work with. So just really make sure that you are yourself and you're authentic and you look after yourself and you balance your home and your work, and that you are authentic with the men that you work with. And then they will support you to be able to grow. But it is multifaceted in this area.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Angela. I'm going to add in Beth at this point.
Yeah, just on the back of what Angela said, I think even working for a company where you do feel like the opportunities are endless and you do have support, it's for someone who doesn't have children yet, and hopefully in the future that will come, it's so super scary. It's so scary. And you find yourself trying have to plan what your next step in your career is, to try and then plan if you're going to have a child or start a family, and it's really, really apparent. And I don't think it is until you get to a certain age, when you do start thinking about that kind of thing, that you realize as a younger woman, or a teenager, or young 20s starting off in a career, you don't even think about these things. And I think then you get to a peak in your career where you've worked really, really hard, and then actually the next step of maybe your life, like your family life, is coming, and it's really scary. And I think even people who have full of confidence and don't have any barriers in their way, then that sets in. And I think it's so important, as Angela said, to change companies' thoughts and procedures around that, and especially in hospitality. We all know that running around a restaurant floor or managing a restaurant late night or a bar or a nightclub, it probably doesn't really work with a family environment. And I think offering the opportunity to progress, a sidestep into different areas within a business when you do plan a family, is really, really important to keep that amazing kind of talent that you do have in the company, and to keep the retention there, really.
Absolutely. I think Nikki wanted to chip in as well, but I think she's being hassled by somebody in the background.
Being harassed. I just really quickly wanted to say, just on a point that Angela was making around getting to the top, and I think there is a whole redefinition around what it means to get to the top. What is that? And I think there's again a redefinition of success. What is success for you? It's different for every single person, particularly with a diversity in age group that we're focusing on now, background, family situation. So I think, I don't, I'm an oldie now, but, for younger people, don't limit yourself to, I've got the top. Define your own method and your own definition of what success is for you, bearing in mind, home life, work life, particularly in leisure and hospitality, because it will just get you, every single day of the week, every single day, 52 weeks of the year except Christmas Day in our business. I don't know about yours. A lot of yours probably open on Christmas Day, quite frankly. So it will get you. So just just create your own definition of what getting to the top is. Otherwise, you will more than likely be disappointed, because it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Nancy, going to come on to you next with a question about how to be progressive without being aggressive or appearing to be aggressive. Oh, I think she's just disappeared.
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, you're here? Great. Coming on to you next.
Can
your video
not
stopped.
See me? There we go.
Oh, you're back.
I get all the technical difficulties. I think so. Progressive versus aggressive. There's probably a lot I want to say there. I think the most important thing is approach every situation with empathy and kindness. Like, all people do have their own frame of reference, and people might think or feel a certain way and not know why. And I think the more inclusive you can be in your approach to them, the more you can try to understand where they're coming from, is the easier it will be to kind of find that common ground. But I also think within that is, sometimes how people define you doesn't define you. And I think listen to yourself and your intuition. Someone might take you as aggressive when deep down you're not. You're just approaching a topic that maybe makes them feel uncomfortable. And sometimes how people react to you isn't about you at all. So I think it's like to really take care of yourself, to know what you want, to know what you stand up for, and just be the kindest person you can and just explain that to others. And if they don't like it, then, self-care, protect yourself, protect your energy, and find people or an employer or whatever it is that values you and your experience. Because at the end of the day, if something doesn't feel right, it's not right. And if people are constantly labeling you as something that you're not, you genuinely feel you're not being, then it's probably time to find people that identify and align with that.
Great suggestion. Thank you very much for that, Nancy. Now, just following on in that same vein, coming back to Nikki, when you do come across kind of confrontational behaviours, what's the best way to address those and move forward?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. An individual opinion is usually replicated across society. So, a lot of the issues that we have around biases, discrimination, and so on, these are societal issues. So, an individual expressing that, well, one, I'm glad they feel they're able to express an opinion. That's absolutely fine. But how do you get past that? Education. You just have to educate people. For a lot of people, it's coming from a position of ignorance. That's fine. They need educating, or they would like to be educated. And for our, I can only focus on the team that we've got and the team that I work with. And most people, and I think it comes back to maybe something that Nancy said, most people want to operate in a kind, generous, inclusive way. We all get things wrong at times. Confronting behaviours, as I say, typically will either come from ignorance, not understanding, working in an environment perhaps previously where such things have been accepted, coming from a family environment where these things are accepted. So, I just focus on trying to educate and lead by example. And I think from my own perspective, that's the best thing that I can do. I am, just by the nature of me, not of my own being, in two of the minority groups. I'm a person of colour and I'm also a female. And to a lot of people, I am still in a position of privilege, given the nature of my job and my the way that I live and so on. But at the end of the day, and we won't go into war stories, but at the end of the day, whenever I walk into a room, I immediately will always have to get over a first hurdle. I mean, it's just the nature of things. I am of an age where there weren't that many people that look like me sitting around board tables or interviewing chief execs or interviewing finance directors, when I was, in my early 30s. And you just have to kind of get on with it, which is what I've done. And, I can't sit here and say that I've come from a place where people have confronted me and I've been made to to feel small or be belittled. And I think for the most part, I've just kind of ridden over anything like that and just carried on my merry way. And perhaps that's what you need to do. But, you know, don't be, for those of you that work with minority groups, you know, don't be fooled into thinking that, you know, they never see things that you will not see, and you won't see because you can't. But it doesn't mean that you cannot be aware of it and take that into account when you're having discussions with people. So I think just be open and have an open discussion, and not be afraid to have an open discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Nikki. Much appreciated. Now we're going to move into the final part of the webinar now, which is where we're going to work around the group for final thoughts, suggestions, any company initiatives, any role models that you think particularly that have kind of like really stood out. I'm going to come back to Angela to start off on this part, but Angela, I don't know if you just saw the question that Tracy posted up in the Q&A, which I thought was really interesting. But if you want to take the lead on that one, that would be fantastic. I'll just read it out.
Yeah,
we need to factor in the women's careers are much longer, 15 years approximately. What can we do to encourage companies to invest in women who have skills, knowledge and experience but won't be retiring at 55? What can we do to support women who want to change in career and not retire early?
I'm not sure that women have 15 years longer than men. I think everybody has got the same opportunity or downside to work as long as they want. I think it's interesting, and you know, I've started to move into the non-exec space. I haven't quite hit the 55 yet, so I'm younger than that. But the having the flexibility, and it comes back actually to the new generation of flexible careers, and thinking about that you won't stay with the same employer forever. There are lots of different molds of jobs, careers, activities, and it's making sure that you have the skills to be able to be flexible and move, whether it's into the new digital space or move into a different type of leisure or retail or different environment. But I think making sure that women plan how they are going to be as skilled as they can possibly be into whatever they want to do at whatever stage of their career. So in the same way as new talent, we need to do that as people get slightly older. They might want more flexibility of hours. They might want more, you know, balance, greater holidays. It comes back to Beth's point, actually, as employers, creating an environment where actually we listen to the needs of people at each stage in their career, and give women the opportunity to build the skills at the right time.
Final hints, tips, suggestions, and any role models?
So, I mean, it's sort of a policy, but it's sort of a role model. In Post Office, we've actually introduced an Empower Hour, which is 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock every single day. And it is for health and well-being, but also to enable people to take time for themselves, or to do some training, or to upskill, or just to chill out, go and have a sleep. And it has absolutely revolutionized the effectiveness of people in the afternoon, and also driven motivation. And that linked to a mentoring program and a reverse mentoring program where actually men were buddied with women, and their whole purpose during this Empower Hour is actually to help and grow and develop an understanding of what it means to be a woman or to be a man, but also what are the barriers and how are they broken down. So it's quite a simple tool, but the tone has been set by the top. So the CEO, all of the exec, they always follow Empower Hour. You will never schedule meetings. You'll never do anything during that hour, because this is personal time for personal development, personal growth, or mentoring. So putting the two schemes together has actually worked really well. And you can see women starting to come through and be involved in really cool projects, actually, that they never thought they could be. Wow,
that's be really interesting to get statistics on that. But, thank you very much for being with us, Angela. That's brilliant. We'll come on to Faye next. Faye, on to you.
Oh, things that are inspiring. I think, to be honest, the development of hybrid working and more conversations about the 4-day week and how, especially in the cafe restaurant sphere, how that can be worked into a profession front of house that is, you know, you've got to be there, and how we can make that healthier for everyone. But I really feel like we've just scratched the surface on how much a more flexible approach to our work lives could massively benefit companies' productivity and engagement and well-being, really. So that's something that I'm very excited about.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Faye, and thank you very much for being with us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Nancy, we'll come on to you next.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard in hospitality. I think the hours you work are really challenging. And I think, you know, a lot of people are really starting to feel that after, you know, essentially 2 years of not necessarily working, or when we had curfew, it got really dreamy for a while. And now you kind of have to, how do you help your staff balance their own health and well-being and physical and mental health, and prioritize that while still expecting them to work nights? I don't know that I necessarily have the solution, but I do know that we're trying different initiatives and different ways of different incentives that we can do for them to help them kind of balance that out, in terms of just giving them a little bit more of a healthier outlook. Because I think hospitality in general can be an unhealthy industry. There's a lot of unhealthy habits that you can see. So challenging those behaviors, but in a very like loving, supportive, empathetic way. And just in terms of role models, I've recently, actually, one of the directors of our company suggested Mary Portas, the kindness exchange. And I've been listening to her every day when I walk to work. And that is my Empower Hour. And it is definitely something that I would suggest to anyone who wants to think about how to work like a woman. It honestly has been really inspiring for me. And also, thank you to everyone. This has been really, really good. So thank you. Thank you.
Excellent, Nancy. Thank you for being part of it. Much appreciated. Beth, we'll come on to you next.
Yes, I think, as Nancy just said, it's been really great to be on a panel of women who are really inspiring as well. I think, as Faye and Nancy just said as well, it's hospitality. We need to get out of this stigma of, oh, it's hospitality. Oh, you work 60 hours a week. Oh, yeah, it's hospitality. Like, no, it's not acceptable anymore. Not that it ever was acceptable, but I think if we really want to engage and attract future talent and, you know, keep that talent within the business for the longevity of their career, of the companies, I think it's really important to challenge the stigma attached to hospitality, that you get on with it and you work 60, 70 hours and you're knackered all the time, and you know, you run on coffee and coffee alone. I think it's really important to challenge that. In terms of anyone that kind of inspires me, I think Angela touched on it earlier when she said that you don't try to be a man, and I don't really know that I know of anyone particular that inspires me, but I know of people I've met who don't inspire me, who didn't inspire me. And one of those people has definitely been a long time ago, was a woman who acted like a man and tried to be a man. And I definitely know that I will not, I will not look up to that role model. So yeah, that's me.
There's a story there I can sense,
Yeah,
Beth, but I'm not going to delve into it right now. But anyway, another time, definitely. Thank you very much for being with us. Much appreciated. Nikki, we'll finish up with you.
Hello. So I think for me, it's what's encouraging is just women supporting other women, and I think it's very, very, very powerful. And you've been talking about people that have inspired you, whether it's, you know, women that you've worked with before or women bosses before, and I think women supporting other women, and we're in a great space at the moment where we've got a lot of forums and a lot of outlets which to do that. So, you know, I encourage myself to get involved, and I encourage kind of all of you to get involved, and there is just a real strength in female leadership. We know that female leaders just bring a different take to all sorts of things that are going on in the world. We're not going to touch on what's going on and how that might be different, you know, if there were female leaders there. But we know that female leadership is absolutely critical to both corporate and, you know, all sectors. So, yeah, I encourage us all to get behind, you know, our female colleagues. And, yeah, thank you very much, Christian, and thank you, everyone, as well.
Excellent, Nikki. That was I think you can definitely see there's some female leadership needed over there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. Guys, thank you all very much for taking part today and giving up your time. I really appreciate it. And I did actually just put a link into the chat, which has got some other interviews that we've done, both videos and articles with other kind of like really great female leaders. So if you want to kind of like have a look at those, again, one of the things that kind of like, you know, we think has really made a big difference to lots of different people is mentorship. So, I mean, any of the panel today that you want to reach out to, any of those female leaders that you want to reach out to, we know them all personally. They're all very open to kind of like giving advice, guidance, support, that side of things, but build your networks, make lots of connections, get all of that kind of stuff going, and it's amazing how they can support you right the way through your career. Trust me, I know, I do it all the time. Not just because I'm in recruitment. Angela's laughing at me very wryly. But on with the rest of our webinar series, we've just put together our next 3 months of webinars, which we are looking for speakers for at the moment. So if anybody would like to get involved in that, then please drop me a line, or we are going to put up a post with all of our ones that we're getting booked in over the next 3 months or so, guys. So if anyone would like to get involved with that, then please do let us know. But just leaves me to say thank you very much for everyone taking part once again, and happy International Women's Day and month. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you ever so much. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.